Ravi was walking alone near the quiet edge of his town when the sky turned bright. At first, he thought it was only lightning, but the light stayed. The air vibrated and the ground under his feet shook. Before he could run, a strange shadow fell over him. A craft, shining like silver, lowered without sound. A beam of pale blue light wrapped around him, pulling him upward against his will. His voice echoed as he shouted, but no one heard him. The beam lifted him higher until the town and the trees disappeared under a blur. His body trembled as the light pulled him inside the belly of the craft. The world he knew was gone in a breath, replaced by silence and cold steel walls. Inside, Ravi saw nothing human. The floor glowed faintly, and the air smelled sharp, like metal. He tried to move, but his arms felt heavy. A door slid open, and tall shadows entered. They were not men, not even close. Ravi gasped when he saw them clearly. The beings were giant. Their heads almost touched the ceiling. Their skin shone faintly, pale like stone under moonlight. Their eyes glowed faint silver, unblinking. Their arms were long, their legs thick, and each step made the floor rumble. One of them bent down, studying him as if he were a lost animal. Ravi's chest tightened. He had seen tall men before, but these were not men. They were 3 times his size. Their hands could crush him in a moment. He whispered to himself, "I need to stay calm." The giants did not speak in any language he knew. Their voices were deep, like drums rolling in a cave. Still, they seemed to understand each other perfectly. After a short talk, one of them tapped a glowing band on its wrist. At once, the beam of light wrapped Ravi again, pulling him through halls made of black stone and silver glass. Finally, he reached a huge chamber that stretched so far he could not see the end. Stars glittered beyond wide windows. Ravi realized then that he was no longer on Earth. This was a space station, floating in the dark sea above the world. The chamber was filled with more giants, some carrying strange weapons, others dressed in cloth that looked heavy as armor. They formed a circle around him. His heart raced as the circle closed tighter. One of the giants stepped forward. She was taller than the rest, her eyes brighter, her presence stronger. She had hair black as the night sky and skin that shone like polished stone. Her voice rumbled, but unlike the others. She stopped and lowered her head slightly as if to greet him. Ravi did not know what she wanted, but her gaze held no anger. She spoke again in her deep language. Then a small metal device near her hand began to shape her words into sounds he could understand. "You are human," the voice said. Though her lips did not match the words, Ravi froze. The giants knew his kind. "Yes," he answered with a shaking voice. "My name is Ravi, please. I do not want harm." The giantess tilted her head, curious. "Ravi," she repeated slowly, as if learning how the word felt in her mouth. "You are rare." The others murmured, but their voices carried unease. Ravi could not understand all their words, yet he felt their tension. Some wanted him kept, some wanted him ended. He could see it in the way their eyes narrowed. The giantess lifted her hand, silencing the rest. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. Ravi had never felt so small. Yet there was something different in her eyes. Not cruelty, not hunger, but thought. "You will not be harmed," the device said in her voice. "Not while I stand here." Ravi's knees weakened. His body shook, but her words gave a little strength. He looked around at the chamber filled with towering figures. He was trapped, far away from home, and yet a single giantess stood between him and doom. She turned to the others, her voice rising like thunder. They listened, even if some did not agree. Her words, though strange, carried weight. She was someone of power. When she finished, she looked back at Ravi. Her silver eyes watched him with care. "You will come with me," the device said. Ravi had no choice but to nod. He followed her as she moved through vast halls, each step of hers covering 3 of his. The station seemed endless, filled with strange lights, humming walls, and unseen machines. Finally, they reached a chamber far quieter. Unlike the grand hall, this place was almost warm. The walls were lined with faint blue glow, and there was a resting platform larger than any house bed. The giantess lowered herself, folding her legs, and sat. She pointed at a small seat shaped for him. Rest, the voice said. Ravi sat slowly, still shaking, still unsure. His mind raced with questions, but none felt safe to ask. Who were these giants? Why had they taken him? Why was this one different from the rest? As he looked up at her, he realized something he could not explain. Her eyes were not filled with cruelty. Instead, they were filled with intent, as if she had already chosen his place in her world. Ravi sat in silence, fear still heavy in his chest. But a strange thought crossed his mind. His capture was not only about chains and walls. It was about something else, something he had yet to understand. The giantess watched him closely, and though she did not speak, her gaze told him one truth. His life was not the prize she wanted. Ravi spent his first night on the space station in silence. He could not sleep. The chamber was too large, the air too heavy, and the presence of the giantess weighed on his mind. She had told him he would not be harmed, but her reasons remained. Hidden, every sound in the dark made him think of home, of the ground under his feet, of the stars above his village. Now the stars were no longer above, but outside the wide windows of the station. When the faint blue lights brightened, signaling a new day, the giantess returned. She wore a cloak of heavy cloth that shimmered as she walked. Ravi noticed that the other giants did not enter with her. It was as if this chamber was hers alone. She looked down at him. The device near her wrist shaped her words again. Come with me, it said in her voice. Ravi followed. His legs shook as he tried to keep pace with her long strides. They moved through vast corridors where other giants stared at him. Some muttered, their eyes sharp and cold. Ravi could not understand their language, but he knew the tone well. They did not want him there. At last, they entered another great hall. This one was round, with high walls glowing like glass. In the center stood a long platform where many giants had gathered. They were dressed with silver bands across their arms and heads. Their posture was straight, their eyes firm. Ravi understood at once. This was the Council of the Giants. The giantess stepped forward with Ravi beside her. Murmurs spread across the room. The sight of a small human among them stirred anger and disbelief. One giant, taller and broader than the rest, raised his hand and spoke loudly. His words echoed like thunder. Ravi looked up at the giantess. The device turned her reply into sound he could understand. They argue about you, the voice explained. Some want your end. They fear what you may bring. Others want you locked away as a thing to study. Ravi's throat tightened. His hands shook, but he forced himself to stand straight. He would not bow before them. The council continued their debate. Their language was heavy with power, but their meaning grew clear through the giantess's device. One side saw Ravi as nothing more than a rare catch, something to be broken apart for answers. The other side did not care if he lived or died, only that he should not trouble them. Then the giantess lifted her hand. The hall fell silent. She spoke with a strong voice, her words rolling like stone against stone. The device translated, he is not a thing. He is a person. You speak of him as you speak of soil or stone. But he carries life, and life must not be wasted. Her words stirred the hall, but many frowned. Ravi felt the weight of their doubt. The larger giant stepped forward. His voice thundered with anger. The device struggled to keep up with his words. You speak as if he matters. He is small, weak, fragile. He cannot walk under our gravity without shaking. How can such a being bring worth to us? Ravi clenched his fists. Fear battled with pride inside him. He wanted to shout, but he stayed silent, waiting for the giantess to answer. She looked down at Ravi, then back at the council. He is not weak, she said firmly. He comes from a world that tried to end him every day, and still he lives. His kind survives storms, hunger, cold, and war. Their bodies heal fast. Their minds think in ways we have forgotten. We must not break what could save us. The hall grew restless again. Some whispered, some shook their heads, yet some listened. With care, their eyes no longer filled with anger, but with thought. The giantess pointed at Ravi. I offer a bargain. Let him live. Let him stay with me. I will learn from him, and if he holds no value, I alone will answer for it. But if he holds the power I believe, then our people will have hope again." The council fell into long silence. The larger giant turned his gaze on Ravi. His eyes burned like silver fire. Then he spoke one last time. The device translated slowly. "If he fails, it is his end." Ravi's heart sank. But the giantess did not waver. She nodded once, firm and strong, and took him by the arm. Without another word, she led him out of the hall. They returned to her chamber. Ravi sat on the small seat, his chest heavy with worry. He looked up at her, his voice low. "Why do you protect me? What do you want from me?" The giantess lowered herself to his level, her silver eyes calm. For the first time, her tone softened. The device shaped her words with care. "I do not want your death. I want something only your kind can give. My people are falling. Our children do not live long. I believe your bloodline holds strength that ours has lost." Ravi's eyes widened. He felt the weight of her words press deep into his heart. He was not saved out of kindness alone. She had chosen him for a reason. The giantess spoke again, slower this time. "I am Nira. You are Ravi. We are two. But perhaps together we can bring life where it is dying. This is my bargain. You live. And in return, you help me save my people." Ravi stared at her, silent, torn between fear and the strange spark of hope in her voice. The truth of his capture had finally begun to unfold. Ravi sat in silence after Nira's words. His heart beat fast, his breath uneven. He had been taken from his home, locked in a world of giants, and now he learned the reason. She did not want his life. She wanted his children, or rather, she wanted the strength his kind carried for her people. Nira's silver eyes stayed on him. Her face was calm, but behind it lay a shadow of worry. "You must understand," her device spoke. "Our people are fading. Once we were many, strong and proud. Now our children grow weak. Few survive to adulthood. We cannot continue as we are." Ravi's mind swirled. He had always believed humans were fragile compared to creatures of greater size. Yet here was a race taller, stronger, heavier than any man, and still they faced ruin. He whispered to himself, "Even giants can fall." Nira leaned closer, her shadow large across the chamber. "You think we are unbreakable because of our size. But strength of body is not the same as strength of life. Your kind survives where we fail. That is why I brought you before the council. That is why I keep you alive." Ravi looked down at his hands. He remembered his village. The nights of storm, the days of hunger, the struggles that forced people to fight for every breath. Humans lived because they adapted. Perhaps that was what Nira saw in him. Still, fear held him. "If your people are in such need," he said carefully, "why would they not simply take what they want from me? Why bargain at all?" Nira's gaze hardened, though her tone stayed steady. "Because I'm not like them. Others see you as a tool, something to be drained and thrown aside. I see you as more. If you agree to help, it must be by choice. Forced life brings no true future." Her words struck Ravi deep. He was still her prisoner, yet she spoke as if he had a choice. Could he really believe her? The chamber grew quiet. Beyond the walls, faint vibrations of the station's engines hummed like a heartbeat. Ravi thought of Earth. He might never see it again. Yet here was a chance, not just to survive, but to shape the fate of another people. Nira spoke again, softer. "Now, you wonder if you are only a seed for my people's future. I will not lie. That is part of it. But I also believe you can teach us more than blood alone. Your kind's will to endure is something we have lost." Ravi's chest tightened. He wanted to shout that he was only a farmer, that he was not strong like the heroes of old tales. But something in her eyes told him she believed otherwise. Before he could answer, the chamber door opened. Two other giants entered, carrying tall staffs that glowed at the ends. Their faces were stern. They spoke in their deep language, their words sharp and heavy. Nira rose to her full height. Her voice thundered back at them. The two hesitated, but one pointed at Ravi with his staff. The translation device caught a few words: danger, useless. End him now. Ravi froze. His hands shook, his body cold. The giants truly wished for his death. Nira stepped in front of him, her form blocking their path. Her silver eyes blazed with fire. She spoke with such force that the walls seemed to tremble. The device translated only part of it, but Ravi understood enough. He is under my protection. No one touches him. The two giants glared at her, but they lowered their staffs. They left with slow, heavy steps, muttering as they went. When the door closed, Ravi let out a long breath he had been holding. He looked up at Nira. "Why risk so much for me?" he asked, his voice weak. Nira lowered herself once more, her gaze steady. "Because I believe our survival depends on you, and because I will not let fear rule us. If they destroy you, they destroy hope." Ravi felt the weight of her words. She was not only saving him, she was standing against her own people for his sake. The thought frightened him, but it also gave him strength. That night, as he rested in the chamber, Ravi turned her words over in his mind. She had told him the truth. The giants wanted his life for their survival. Nira wanted his children for their future. Yet she also wanted his choice, his will, his knowledge. For the first time since his capture, Ravi did not feel only fear. A small spark of something else lit inside him. Perhaps trust. Perhaps hope. As the stars shone beyond the windows, Ravi whispered to himself, "If even giants can fall, maybe even humans can lift them again." He did not know what the days ahead would bring, but he knew one truth. His place on the station was no longer only that of a prisoner. He had become a piece of their fate, and whether he liked it or not, their fate had now become tied to his. The days on the station passed slowly for Ravi. He lived under Nira's watch, moving between her chamber and the small learning halls she allowed him to see. The giants were cautious, always keeping their distance, yet their eyes followed him. Everywhere, to them he was not only a prisoner, but also a puzzle. Nira kept her promise and shielded him from harm, though she was often called away to argue with the council. Each time she returned, her steps seemed heavier. Ravi began to understand how great the risk was for her. She had chosen to protect him against the will of many. One morning she brought him to a wide hall unlike the rest. Its walls glowed warm, and its air was lighter. Strange shapes stood along the sides like large nests. Ravi soon realized they were beds, and on those beds lay children, young giants who looked pale and weak. The sight struck his heart. Their breaths were shallow, their limbs thin. They did not carry the strength of their elders. Nurses moved quietly among them, checking pulses and feeding them liquids that glowed faintly. Still, the children struggled. Ravi whispered, "So this is the truth you spoke of." Nira's face grew dark. "Yes, these are the few who survive. Birth, many do not even reach this stage. Our numbers fall with each passing season. Soon our halls will be empty." Ravi stepped closer to one child. The boy's eyes opened weakly, silver but dim. When the boy saw him, he gave a faint smile, too tired to do more. Ravi felt his throat tighten. The giants may have been larger, but their young were as fragile as any human child. Nira spoke again, her voice low. "This is why I asked for your help. Your people live where others would fall. Your children are born in lands of storm, flood, and fire, yet they grow. If your kind and mine are joined, perhaps we will find the strength we lost." Ravi stood silent. His mind wrestled with fear and duty. He had been taken from Earth without warning, locked in a world not his own. Yet the weak breaths of the children filled him with something he could not ignore. They were fighting for life, just as human children did. That night he sat alone in Nira's chamber. His thoughts circled again and again. He could refuse, and perhaps Nira would still shield him. But the council would never stop pressuring her, and if she fell, his life would end with hers. He could accept, but then he would carry the weight of shaping another race's future. When Nira entered, she saw the storm in his face. She did not speak at first. She lowered herself and sat across from him. Her silver eyes shone softly in the glow of the walls. "You are troubled," her device said. Ravi looked up at her. "You asked me to choose between being a prisoner or becoming a bridge between our kinds. Both choices carry chains." Nira tilted her head. "You are right, no choice is free, but only one gives meaning." Ravi pressed his hands together. Why? Me? I am no leader, no warrior. I was only a farmer on Earth. I worked the soil, not the stars. A faint smile touched her lips, and yet soil holds the root of life. You think that makes you less. I believe it makes you more. Her words carried weight, and for a moment Ravi felt strength stir within him. Still, doubt lingered. If I agree, what becomes of me? Do I remain a captive forever? Nira's eyes softened. You will not be a captive. You will live among us, not under us. I will see to it. You will have a place, and in time. Respect. Silence fell between them. Ravi's mind painted images of the children he had seen, their faint smiles, their dim eyes. He remembered the struggles of his own people on Earth, how even the weakest fought to survive. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady though low. If I agree, it is not because I am forced. It is because I have seen your children. I cannot turn away from them. But know this, Nira, if I help you, I will also speak for my kind. Humans must not be treated as tools. We must be treated with honor. Nira bowed her head once, solemn. Then it is decided. You will help us, and I will guard your honor. Together we will face the council. Together we will face the future. The next day, word of Ravi's decision spread through the station. Whispers filled the halls. Some giants looked at him with interest, others with scorn. To them he was still small, fragile, unworthy. Yet a few began to see him differently, not as a prisoner, but as someone who might hold the key to survival. The council called Nira and Ravi once more. The great hall echoed with voices of doubt. But when Nira spoke, she carried his choice like a banner. He has agreed to stand with us. He will not be broken. He will be honored. And with him, we may rise again. Many still opposed her, their eyes sharp with suspicion. But others remained quiet, watching Ravi closely, measuring his strength not in size but in will. As Ravi stood there, his heart heavy yet firm, he realized the truth. He was no longer only a captured man. He was now part of a choice that could shape the destiny of giants, and in that moment, he decided he would not walk in fear any longer. The council chamber was never silent. Voices rose like thunder, shaking the walls as the giants argued about Ravi's place. Nira stood tall among them, her silver eyes blazing, but Ravi could feel the weight of their anger pressing down on him. One giant pointed at him with a hand large enough to crush stone. He is weak, the translation device said in a harsh voice. He should not walk our halls. He should not breathe our air. If we trust him, we risk the end of our people. Another giant agreed, his deep tone filled with scorn. What can he give us? Look at him. He stumbles under our gravity. His arms are thin, his frame small. He cannot fight. He cannot rule. He is nothing. Ravi felt his chest tighten. Each word was a knife, cutting at his worth. Yet Nira raised her hand, silencing them. He is not nothing, she said firmly. He is human. His kind endures where many would fall. Their strength is not in size. Their strength is in will, in mind, in the knowledge they carry. Her words stirred the chamber. But doubt still filled the faces of many. Ravi's heart pounded. He wanted to speak, but fear held his tongue. Then he remembered the weak children he had seen in the healing hall. He remembered the faint smile of the boy who could barely breathe. That memory gave him courage. He stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. I am not as strong as you, he said, but strength is not only a muscle. My people live on a world of storms and hunger. We do not have bodies like yours, yet we survive because we learn, we build, and we endure. That is what I can give you. The giants murmured, some in anger, others in thought. Ravi pressed on, his voice gaining strength. If you only want my blood, then you will gain nothing. But if you let me share what I know, if you let me teach you, then you will gain more than children. You will gain a future. For a moment the hall fell silent. Even the largest of the giants seemed to pause. But then one voice rose again, sharp and cold. He speaks well, but words do not build walls. Words do not heal children. Show us his worth. If he cannot prove it, then he is nothing but a mouth. Nira looked down at Ravi, her eyes steady. Will you show them? Ravi nodded, though fear still churned in him. Yes, I will show them. The days that followed became trials. The council demanded proof of his value. Nira guided him, but he had to stand on his own. First, he was brought to the gardens of the station, where crops grew under strange lights. The plants were tall, yet many were thin and weak. The giants had built machines to feed them, but their methods lacked care. Ravi bent to the soil, ran the dirt through his fingers, and studied the roots. You grow them to close, he explained. They choke each other. You water them to heavy, so the roots drown. Give them space. Give them balance, and they will grow strong. The giants watched with doubt, but when they followed his advice, the plants began to thicken and rise green. Leaves spread wide, healthier than before. Some giants muttered in surprise. Next, Ravi was taken to the healing hall. The sick children lay weak, their breaths shallow. Ravi remembered the herbs of his village, the ways his people used plants and simple cures to fight illness. He looked at the food paste the giants fed their young and shook his head. You feed them too much of one thing, he said. Their bodies need many kinds of food. Mix your grains with the leaves, with roots, with fruits. Variety brings life. The nurses hesitated, but under Nira's command they tried his method. In time, the children's color grew stronger, their eyes brighter. Word spread through the station. Some giants began to whisper differently, no longer only fragile human, but also teacher and knower of small things. Still, not all were convinced. The broad giant who had always opposed Nira confronted Ravi in the hall. His voice was deep with scorn. You give advice like a child giving orders. You think your small mind can guide us? You are nothing. Ravi stood his ground. His legs shook, but his voice did not. I may be small, but my people's strength is not in height, it is in survival. If you call me nothing, then you call every human nothing. Yet we are still here. That is proof enough. The broad giant leaned close, his shadow falling over Ravi. If you fail us once, your life ends. Ravi felt fear crawl across his skin, but he did not look away. When the giant left, Nira placed her hand near Ravi, careful not to touch. You stood tall, she said softly. You gave them reason to think. Ravi breathed deeply. His body still trembled, but inside he felt a spark of pride. He was no longer only a prisoner. He was fighting for his place, not just for himself, but for what humans could be. The conflict was far from over. The council was still divided. Some wanted him destroyed. Others began to see hope in his words. But Ravi knew one truth. Each step he took, each lesson he gave, pushed him further, away from fear and closer to respect. The space station grew restless. News of Ravi's success in the gardens and the healing hall spread through every chamber. Some giants began to see him as more than a fragile human, while others whispered that he was a danger, a seed of change they could not control. The council had not reached a decision, and the tension pressed on every step he took. Ravi felt the weight of many eyes. Wherever he walked, giants stared, some with curiosity, some with anger. He often thought of Earth, of the quiet soil of his fields, and wondered if he would ever see it again. But each time he remembered the weak children, he knew his choice had already been made. He could not turn back. One evening, Nira led him to a high chamber with a wide window that looked over the stars. The endless dark stretched before them, scattered with bright points of light. Ravi stood at the edge, his heart heavy and full. Nira spoke, her device shaping her words. The council grows divided. Half believe in you, half want you gone. Soon they will demand a final choice. Ravi folded his hands. If they demand my end, will you still stand for me? Nira lowered her gaze, then lifted it again, firm. Yes, I have chosen this path. I will not turn. Her voice carried more than loyalty. It carried risk. Ravi knew she had set herself against her own people for him. He turned back to the stars. Then we must find a way, not only for me, but for your people too. If they see only a small human, they will never follow. We must show them more than survival. We must show them hope. The words seemed to strike something in Nira. She leaned closer. her silver eyes sharp with thought. Hope, that is what they have lost. They live in fear of the future. Perhaps you can give them what I cannot. The next day, Nira gathered a group of giants in the learning hall. They were not the council, but soldiers, workers, and nurses. Those who carried the weight of daily life. Ravi stood before them, his voice uncertain at first, but stronger as he spoke. You see me as small, he said, but small does not mean weak. On my world, small hands plant seeds that feed thousands. Small minds think of ways to survive storms and droughts. If you give me time, I will show you what my people know. Together, we can build a stronger future. The giants listened, their faces unreadable. Yet when Ravi showed them how to mix their soil for crops, how to balance food for children, and how to care for the weak with patience instead of force, some began to nod. Word spread again. Faster this time, more giants came to listen. Some asked questions, others tested his methods and saw results. A few even spoke his name with respect. But the broad giant who opposed him most did not stay silent. He gathered his own supporters and warned that Ravi was a trick, a danger who would twist their people into weakness. His voice carried weight, and many still feared his words. The conflict reached the council once more. The hall filled with sharp voices. The broad giant demanded Ravi's removal. Nira stood firm at his side. Ravi, though his heart raced, stepped forward on his own. His voice echoed across the hall. I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to replace you. I am here to help. If you fear me, then you fear knowledge itself. And without knowledge, your children will fade. If you let me stay, I will share all I can. If you cast me out, you will lose nothing but a chance. The words hung heavy in the air. The council members stared at him, their silver eyes cold yet thoughtful. At last, one of the older giants rose. His voice was slower, softer than the rest. I see truth in his words. He does not speak with power, but with heart. Perhaps that is the strength we have forgotten. Others nodded, though some still scowled. The council did not give a final answer, but the tide had begun to shift. That night, in the quiet of Nira's chamber, Ravi sat by the window. Nira joined him, her cloak brushing the floor. You have done more than I hoped, she said. They begin to see you, not as prey, but as a partner. Still, the danger is not gone. If you fail once, they will strike. Ravi met her gaze. Then I cannot fail. Not for me, not for the children, not for you. For the first time since his capture, Nira's lips curved into a faint smile. It was not the smile of victory, but of trust. Outside the window, the stars burned steady. Ravi felt their light deep in his chest. He was no longer only a prisoner of the giants. He was becoming something more. A bridge, a voice, a spark of hope. And though the path ahead was filled with danger, he knew he would walk it, not alone, but beside Nira, and perhaps one day beside all her people. The council chamber was quieter than usual. The giants had gathered once more to hear a final report on Ravi's work. The glow of the walls reflected on their silver eyes. But this time the eyes carried something different: curiosity, respect, even hope. Ravi stood beside Nira. His hands were steady, his voice calm, though his heart raced. The council's debate had lasted weeks. Some still opposed him, but many had seen the results of his guidance. Crops were growing stronger. Children were healthier, and the station itself seemed lighter with new methods and care. The broad giant, who had once called him weak, stepped forward. His deep voice shook the hall. We tested him. We watched him, and what we saw was not weakness. What we saw was life. He has given us knowledge we did not know we needed. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Even those who had opposed Nira's choice could not ignore the results. The council fell silent as the broad giant looked down at Ravi. Your life has brought change, he said. Perhaps our way of thinking must change as well. Humans may be small, but their wisdom is large. Ravi felt a wave of relief. He had come to this place as a prisoner, uncertain of his fate. Now he stood as a teacher, a guide, a partner. His small hands had altered the future of a people much larger than him. Nira stepped forward, her presence strong and steady. Her silver eyes scan the room. The council sees now what I have seen from the start. Ravi is not just a human. He is a bridge between our peoples. His guidance has given hope where we had lost it. We must protect that hope. Some giants nodded slowly. Others looked uncertain. But the weight of Nira's words carried authority. For the first time in generations, the council made a decision together. They would accept Ravi as an ally, not a prisoner. The hall emptied slowly afterward. Giants lingered in the corridors, some bowing slightly as Ravi passed. He felt strange pride. He had survived their doubts, their fear, and now even their respect. Later, Nira led him to the healing hall. The children were stronger, their breath steady, their eyes bright. Some of the smallest ones ran with shaky legs but smiled with confidence. Ravi knelt beside a child who had once barely opened his eyes. "You see now," he whispered softly. "You are stronger than you thought." The child reached for his hand and held it tightly. Ravi smiled. The connection between them felt real, simple, and powerful. Life had returned to these halls. Days passed, and Ravi's role grew. He taught the giants how to care for their young, how to use plants and soil in better ways, and how to think carefully before acting. Slowly, the giants began to combine their strength with human knowledge. Nira often watched him quietly, her silver eyes soft but proud. She did not need to speak. Ravi understood that she believed in him. He had earned her trust and her protection, and more than that, he had earned a place in a world he had never known. One evening, Ravi stood by the wide window that looked out over the stars. The station moved silently through the dark expanse, and he felt a calm he had never felt since being captured. Nira joined him, her shadow tall and steady. "You have done more than I imagined," she said. Ravi looked at her, his voice low but firm. "We have done it together. Your people have strength. They only needed guidance." She nodded. "And your people have given it. Perhaps our kinds are not so different after all. Together, we are stronger than either alone." Ravi smiled. He thought of Earth, of the sun warming his fields, and of the children he had saved here. Life was strange and unpredictable, but it was full of possibility. In the days that followed, the station began to change in many ways. Giants who had once doubted humans now sought Ravi's advice. Children laughed more freely, learning both the ways of their elders and the lessons of the small human who had taught them to endure. The council agreed to new plans for the future. Farms expanded with careful attention. Healing halls improved with balance and care. Schools opened where giants and humans could learn from each other. A bridge had been built, not of stone or metal, but of trust, respect, and shared knowledge. Ravi often walked the halls with Nira, observing quietly. He no longer felt fear in their presence. Giants nodded to him, seeking guidance, offering smiles. He had become more than a visitor. He had become part of their future. One night, looking at the stars, Ravi whispered to himself, "Perhaps life is not about size or power. It is about learning, helping, and surviving together." Nira's hand brushed his shoulder gently. "And now you are part of it," she said. Ravi nodded. His journey from a captive human to a teacher and ally had been long and difficult, but the end was not just survival. It was hope. A future where humans and giants could share strength, knowledge, and life. The stars outside burned steady and bright, reflecting the new light inside the station. Ravi knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with Nira and with the giants who had learned to trust him. Life had been given a chance, and he would protect it, no matter the cost. For the first time, Ravi felt a true belonging. Humanity, through him, had not only survived but had begun to thrive among the stars.